Sorry, we're streaming this as well. I started this meetup when a couple of our now members were sitting in a coffee shop at Sugar House Coffee. That was Joe, and where's Ken? There's Ken. And they were like working on a little Django project, and I saw that blue bar, and I was like, oh, that's a Django admin. Are you guys coding in Python? And they said, yeah. Do you go to the Python group? No, it's far too south. So let's start our own Python group. Joe and I also hacked at a little thing called Hack Dance. Do not hack at Hack Dance. Just do not go to that hacking competition. Okay, it's a cluster something. It was fun though, and we decided let's.
Money, that was nice.
Yeah, we won money we never saw.
Theoretical money.
So yeah, this is some intros. This is how the meetup was started. We are 4 years now, right? 4 years strong.
Almost 2,000 members now.
Yeah, we're close to 2,000 members. Maybe one of you is going to be the 2,000th member. Our mission goal, I was thinking about this month, is to support the community using technology in the Valley. Regardless of which one, Python is an important one, but I think that it also means that we support the community, both the tech community and non-tech community. So I'll have more to say about that in a moment. But that's Salt Lake City Python and Utah Python. Those are our goals. Utah Python is the umbrella organization. We have a few meetups related to Utah Python, including this group and Python Utah North, which is located in Logan, run by that individual in the red shirt who is also my father.
Just let me say, our next meetup is ham radio using Python.
Nice.
In 2 weeks.
Nice.
So if you want to make it up to Logan, our resident host always seems to create a phenomenal food item, even if it's not pizza. He'll just whip up something, and last month it was mac and cheese, but with a difference. Homemade.
That sounds tasty. Salt Lake City Pie Ladies, they're a pretty fun group. Anybody from Pie Ladies here tonight? Oh, hi, welcome. I think their next talk is about Git, right?
Yep.
How to use Git. Lots of good talks like that. If you are not a lady, they can still use members like you to join and learn and teach. The Python at the Point, South Valley, that one is formally what the Utah Python group was, which was also, from what I understand in history, 10 years ago was held at the U, but now it's held down south. I always say Needle, it's not Needle anymore, it's this place close to, in Lehigh, I think? Canvas.
Canopy.
Are you there? Canopy. Canopy. Who goes to that meetup? Okay, well, fits. Okay. Girl Develop It, they're more workshop oriented. They're not Python specific, but they do a lot of Python. If you want to teach a workshop with them, that is something that they're always keen on. I taught a Django workshop with them. It was a lot of fun. At that moment, we also provided childcare. So if your company can afford to sponsor childcare, and then you have an 8-hour workshop while somebody else is watching the kids, that's always fun. So that's Girl Develop It. Our website's slcpy.com. I found it, and it's so old and dead that I need to redo it. It's on the repo. Please fix it, somebody, please. And utahpython.org, it's written in Angular, and it fetches from this, and it's a static page. And the more I write in static pages, the more I wish I don't code dynamic stuff anymore, because it just works, and I never have to look at it again. GitHub repos, if you give a talk, I will fork it to SLCPython on github.com. Not sure if we're going to stick to GitHub. I don't know.
Loading.
Yeah. It is also on GitLab now, under the same name. Same with Utah Python is still on GitHub. I did not export that one yet, but this is that site. So the GitHub page is supporting the Utah Python page. So if you have a pull request or you want to make a change or add your meetup group, just send a pull request to that. We'll see it, we'll approve it, and yeah. Sponsors, Pythonistas like you, thank you very much. Give yourself a pat on the back. We're always looking for new sponsors, and sponsors are what keep the pizza flowing, because without pizza and coffee, there is no development, right? X Mission, is Matt here? No? Well, I'll give the spiel then. X Mission. because net neutrality should be a thing, and X mission knows that. Oh, yeah, I'm going there. X mission, because deep packet inspection is for China, not for the US. Yeah, X mission is your local internet service provider. They are awesome. If anybody here running on X mission, yeah, he's always raising his hand about this. So in Brigham City, they've had X mission fiber for like 10 years.
At least.
And what, you pay $30 a month for a gigabyte?
No, $30
Gigabit?
a month, $250.
Oh,
A gigabyte is
a
$2
gigabit
more.
is $40.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So this is why you should get involved with local tech politics, just saying. University of Utah, thank you to the U for being an amazing venue. Does anybody have any issues parking today, by the way? No? See? Great. Everybody figured out the instructions, or took transit, or took a bicycle. It's a pretty sweet spot for that. And tech systems. Hi, Kate. How's it going? Kate, do you want to give a quick spiel about tech systems?
Sure. So, right as I picked on my mouth, sorry. So, if you're not familiar with tech systems, we are the nation's leading IT staffing and IT services company. We do everything from like entry-level tech support up to like manager fees. So anything in tech. We do have Python roles right now. So if you're looking for something, feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, I love our approach. It's very much relationship based versus like fill that role based. So anytime you reach out to one of our people, we're going to do our best to make sure that we're supporting you and creating that long-term relationship. So.
I will say, compared to other recruiters, tech systems never once asked if I was a Java person for a JavaScript job, or asked if I knew iOS when I said I know Django. So, yeah, they know their stuff. They actually know what roles fit with which person. If you're looking to hire somebody, Tech Systems is a great resource. If you're looking to get hired, there you go. Just talk to Kate and say hi. Either way, they also sponsor our Raspberry Pis. So, thank you to Tech Systems.
And did we actually bring you like a Raspberry Pi?
Yes, we did actually sponsor an actual Raspberry Pi for our February soiree.
We have done that as a joke before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we will be giving a few of these out. I have a box of them. Anybody just like boxes of Raspberry Pi? I should just throw them in the audience and see who catches one. I went ahead. We're all about open accounting. We'll talk about that. I didn't mark this yet. I forgot to, but I went ahead and gave out 2 of these to West High students. I think everybody's okay with that, right? So speaking of helping the community with technology, that's what we did. Did everybody see the email I sent out about that teacher was looking for somebody to speak? Did anybody else go and touch base with her? No? That's okay. But something that you should do is get with your community. Yeah, so I took 3 hours 2 Wednesdays ago, and I gave a talk to all those students. Any high school students here today? Hey, how's it going? Were you from West High? Hey, how's it going? And I promised them, if they came to this meetup and you're in high school, you'll get a prize right off. So here you go. Good to meet you. Paris. Everybody, this is Urban, everybody. Were you in the first or second group? Were you in the one like right before the end of school or the beginning? The end? Okay, that one I was more awake and I was able to give 2 talks. So that was a lot of fun. And you're about to graduate? Next year? Nice. And school's out, right? As of yesterday? Nice. How's that feel? Yeah? Sweet. Well, welcome to the group. Recruiter, Kate, we have a young blood for you.
I'm happy to stay in touch with you until you graduate.
Yeah. New sponsors are always appreciated. We have been reached out by a few, and they have sponsored things. Sometimes it doesn't work. We had one that came through. They wanted to do a database talk, but that person wasn't going to be there, and it just didn't work out. But if it does work out, just reach out to us on the meetup. All of our money, all of our expenses, every little thing is open accounting. The only thing you can't see is who donated what, except for sponsors. If you're a corporate entity, then we'll list that, oh, okay, this corporate entity donated this much to our meetup group. But it's all at meetup.com/SLCPython/money. This will be more important as we try to launch into a 501(c) or C3? C3, which is one of our plans this year. I finally got to talk to the chairman and a couple board members at the PSF, and they clarified that I was wrong in somebody else's clarification from 2 years ago that we are allowed to be a nonprofit and receive PSF funds. So if we wanted to do a Utah Python conference, that is a possibility that is within the realm of possibility. The other two things I've been working on that I would like some help on are a proposal to bring DjangoCon 2020 to Salt Lake City, and a proposal to bring PyCon 2022 to Salt Lake City. That second one is the raison d'etre for this group. It is our reason for being. It is my reason for being. Once that happens, I'm just going to step down and I'll just be sitting over here. But that's my driver. If you're interested in that, message me on Meetup. And if you're really interested in that and it works out well, I think that would be our first board, because we need to have an actual board in order to be a 501(c)(3) in the state of Utah. So talk to me, reach out. If you have experience starting a nonprofit, like Matt, who's not present right now, but he's the CFO at X Mission. He helped us last time, tried to start one up, and then I heard this news, so we spun it down, and now we're spinning it back up. So that's that news. So yeah, let me know about that. New members, raise your hands. Oh, this is the fun part. Keep them up, because you're about to introduce yourself, and I've now memorized where all of you are sitting. So a couple things. Looks like Jacob, you've got.
Yeah. Does anybody not have a name tag?
If you don't have a name tag, let's get that around. Sweet. New members, you're gonna introduce yourself. You're gonna say your name, your occupation, and one non-code thing, because let's face it, a coding meetup is like 80% not about code. So, my name is Ferris. I am the chief software janitor at Teem. I clean up other people's code. My favorite hike in the valley / canyons. So far right now, I have a new favorite. It's Desolation Lake. Anybody been there up there? Isn't it gorgeous? It's like our own Banff, blue lake with the red outline. It's pretty. It's quite the hike, but I had a lot of fun doing it. So, who else is up? Oh, come on, now your hands go down. Go ahead.
My name is Adi, and I work as a software engineering consultant at GE Healthcare. And my favorite hike is Mount Olympus.
Mount Olympus. Nice. You just outdid me. So.
You said the hike was hard, Ferris.
I know. Now I'm just I looked at it on All Trails after I finished, and it said moderate, and I was like, that's moderate? And I threw my phone across the room. Go ahead.
It kind of makes sense for me to just do it now. So I'm David. I'm also at GE Healthcare, and I like hiking too. I have not done Olympus this summer.
Yeah, that's your goal?
I'll do it, yeah.
Goal hikes are okay too. Any favorites in the valley?
I've gone up to Kings Peak.
Ooh, nice. Okay, guys, I need better hiking shoes or something. Who else? Go! Hey, Tux, how's it going?
Hey, I'm Tux, aka John Pacific. I'm a cryptographer at NewCipher. My favorite hike is Ensign Peak, just up north, or I guess, yeah, north. Okay, yeah.
Tux, that's my second favorite. It's such a long trail. But seriously, if you're new to hiking, do Ensign. It's a great hike. It's a beautiful reward
I'm
at
out
the
there
end.
now, I guess so.
You can get the airport on your right, and then you look across the whole valley. You have the mountains, and right there is the Capitol. It's a really nice place to take photos too, if you're into photography. So if you're new to the valley, do that one first, and then you can pick out and be, I want to go there. I want to go. Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm Jordan Pacific, brother, and I work at Dealer Socket. I'm in business intelligence over there, and I'm doing Kings Peak in July. Actually.
Kings Peak. Nice.
Yeah.
Is it the kind of hike you have to plan for?
I hope not.
If I see your name in the news, I know why. That's funny, actually. Camelback. Anybody done that one in Arizona? In middle of Scottsdale, they have Camelback. Is the name of that giant mountain in the middle of nowhere? And people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to go on a hike on that." And that one is hard on all trails because it's like this, you're literally climbing hand over foot. Every year, at least once a week, my cousin lives there, and he's just telling me that they see a helicopter go there and do a rescue because people get dehydrated because they're doing a hike in the middle of summer. in Arizona, which is just wonderful. Sorry to go on a tangent there. Who else is new?
I'm Soumya. I'm doing my master's in MSIS Information Systems, and favorite hike Donut Falls.
Donut Falls, classic. That's a nice one. Anybody else done Donut Falls before? Yeah, that's a fun one. Who else? Who else is new? Go for it.
Chase, currently looking, but I'm a senior platform architect. And favorite hike is to not.
Favorite hike is
Not hiking.
Where's two not? No.
Skyrim is not a
Around
choice
the premise
of hikes.
keyboards.
Oh.
Your favorite hike is like in Skyrim or
It's, yeah, just like play like World of Drift and just like swing over the mountains.
Yes.
That entirely.
yes. VR does not count for this. So who else? Oh, in the back.
I'm Blake Rand. I work at Equity. I'm the associate director of data management. I also like to hike, but I like motorcycles too. So we bifurcate the
All right. Sorry. I'm also DJing the video streaming as I'm doing this. Who else? Oh, right here in the corner.
Tech. I'm an IT project manager / analyst / automator / whatever needs to happen for the organization.
Nice. You have the most appropriate name for your field. I'm sure you're told this
And it's
all the time.
Beautiful.
Right? What's your favorite hike, Tech?
I don't really have one. I'm working on getting out of the cave that is my house, so.
So just around the block?
Do it, trap.
That's always a nice one, though.
But I look at the avenues, it works.
Oh, okay. Just keep walking uphill and then walk downhill. Yeah, works. Who else? Oh, go for it.
Well, my name is Elba. I'm a business analyst, and I don't hike like you because I have asthma, but I try to do it every weekend. The last weekend I did the white, also before you. So I'm hiking.
All right.
Why? I reached to one point that I cannot breathe. I'm sorry. Yes.
Who else? You didn't introduce yourself yet, probably.
I'm Urban, and I'm a student at West High, and I'm not really hiking, but like to
Timpanogos. Hey, that counts, man. Oh, welcome. Go for it.
I'm Mary Jo. I'm master student in information systems, and I'm interning as BI in the UIT. So I'm not much of a hiking person, but if it's a group of friends, I'm up for it.
Yeah? Nice. Have you gone, you're at the U, right? There's a lot of really nice trails right over here. Am I pointing the right direction?
Yeah.
Yes, this general area, just walk that way and you'll end up
Pretty
some...
much point anywhere.
Yeah, you can point anywhere, yes. Very good point, Sherry. You can point anywhere in Utah and there's probably a good hike.
Yeah, we're in a valley, so
Yeah.
if you walk far enough in any direction, you'll get to a hike.
Yeah. Somebody's going to end up in a military zone as a result of that advice. So that's my disclaimer, is do some research first, but... Did you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chanchal. I'm a student in Masters in Computer Science. I'm working at UIT as well as a machine learning intern, and I don't have a favorite hike.
Oh, but you will. You will, soon.
I have done a few, but I haven't found a favorite.
You just didn't like any of them?
Not so much.
That's fair. I found the trick is take breaks, bring water, and bring a picnic or like a couple snacks. So that way you have an excuse to sit down and just actually just take it in.
They don't let me sit down, but if you sit down, you won't get up.
Okay, then. Yeah, that's a good point too.
Maybe you need your hiking partners.
Right? Anybody else who's new? Go for it.
I'm Rohan. I'm Masters in Petroleum Engineering. Just exploring this. Hikes. I love hiking. I have yet to do Donut Falls. But I've done Living Room Trail thrice. Even if I didn't want to, but
Yeah. Living Room Trail has a very distinct odor too from all the hippies who hike it, so it's a fun trail. Anybody else?
I'm not new per se. It's been a year and a half since I've been here though. I'm Darian. I'm involved with the new real cryptocurrency. Anyone knows of that?
Nice. We should have a crypto off.
Let's talk.
Yeah. Sweet. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. To our new members and all members, thank you so much for being here. I know there's lots of stuff you could be doing on a lovely Wednesday such as this, rather than listening to me drone on and on, but thank you. Let's get to the fun part. Yeah. Okay, I'm used to my mouse being on the other side, so it's kind of a context switch. Who's hiring? Teem is hiring. Teem.workable.com. Go there. We were hiring a platform architect guy, and they just hired one. I'm so sorry, but
I know.
jerks. But yeah, check it out. I know they're always hiring pretty much across the spectrum, from whatever language you are to whatever level of language you are. We have a high school person working there, interning there, working on the iOS apps. So yeah, check it out. Market dial, boom. That is so who put this here? Somebody put this here? Okay.
Yeah, so we are a data science retail shop, and we're basically Python based. We're looking for data scientists, ETL engineers, and a director of QA right now.
All kinds of cool stuff. Nice. Market dial, and you get to code on Linux, which is fun.
We do get to code on Linux. We are a pretty OS agnostic shop, but if you're going to bring a Mac, I'm done. It's just me.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's pretty much Fisher Price, let's face it. Who else is hiring? Sorry?
It's like flattery will get you nowhere.
Who else is looking in the Valley? Or knows of a company that is looking to hire a Python developer? Come on, there's got to be a few. You know of somebody, but Kate knows of a person. She will tell you in person if you ask. Anybody else know of anybody else? No? Tux, are you hiring? Tux is hiring. Let's see. You trolled me.
We are always looking for interesting, smart people in most languages now, I think. So, yeah, like I can, if you're interested in doing cryptography stuff, then talk to me. But I mean, is anybody here cryptographer? Oh, okay. Hey, you getting there? Yeah, I don't know. Talk to me, I guess. I'm always looking for smart people to join the crypto team.
There you are, Tux.
Great. Great.
And you get paid in Bitcoin.
No, you don't. US dollars. We get paid in fiat. We get paid in fiat. You buy cryptocurrency with that. Yeah, no.
Ethereum. You get paid in Ethereum.
Dogecoin.
We can do Dogecoin.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right, let's move on. This is the other fun part where you get to market yourself and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm looking for this. So anybody here who is looking for a career, go ahead. And I'll have to write your name down in email. Is that okay?
That's fine. So I'm Chase. Email is syntax with the Q before the X.
Wait.
Syntax with the Q before the X.
Let's break it down to syllables.
At gmail.com. And yeah, I'm a senior software engineer focusing mostly on backend. Primarily I've worked in Go for the past 5 years, so I'm an anomaly in the Salt Lake area. And I'm looking for an architecture or principal engineer role.
Nice. Is that good?
Sure.
If you want, you can edit it. By the way, this is all public. Anybody can do their thing here. And yeah.
I can delete it?
Sorry? You can delete it. Look, that little Etherpad is unsupported message. Oh. They put that up like a week ago, and it's been freaking me out. But basically, Mozilla's like, oh yeah, we're probably going to delete this pretty soon. So I have to spin up an Etherpad this month. That's going to be fun. Oh, Dylan's he just volunteered to spin up an Etherpad. Who else is looking? This guy. Louis Shabib. Oh, he hates you. Who knows the spiel?
I thought you were just going to copy and paste it yourself.
I wish. There we go.
When you copy and paste yours,
I mean,
over,
You've got some good data in line
He's good at copy and paste, but guys, he didn't indent it, and we're coding Python here. Come on.
Concurrencies.
Right? Anybody else?
So Jordan Pacific, looking for some opportunities in product management.
He's good with Python though.
Yeah.
So I'm typing on like a tiny screen like this big, because I just see like a tiny mirror of this one. So. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. Okay, let's move on. New topics, new speakers. We actually have a talk coming up for, what month is it? Geez, July. Second week, because if it was the first week, then you'd all be here on July 4th. And I know as much as you love me, you probably love America more, you know. If you don't, take a knee, and that's fine. Suggested talks we have. If you see anything over here that you would like to do, let me know.
Open tracing.
Channels is one I've wanted to do for a while. Sorry.
Open tracing.
Do you want to give a talk?
Open tracing. Do you want to give a talk?
Sure.
That's a great way to get hired. Because your SEO goes way up.
Yeah. Let's just put them on there.
Yeah. So.
Chase.
Yeah, Chase.
Remember the key before.
And I'm gonna do August. I'm giving a talk on that. Sorry?
We'll talk about the month later.
Chase will be giving it in August. A talk in August. He got all summer. It's fine. It's not like he got anything else. I'm sorry, that was terrible. No, we'll find you something. You're on this board, so you'll find something.
I
What
see
else?
something on encryption.
Oh yes, where is it?
It's right under Blender, on the bottom.
Oh, encryption.
Pretty
Pi
sure we
crypto.
put that on and it had your name at one point.
There we go. Yep. Also, oh, there's a lot of stuff I can do. That's cool.
Yes. So, should I add your
Wanna give
name
a talk?
as a potential person to give a talk?
I can do it on cryptography, yeah, and why you shouldn't probably use RSA anymore.
Nice.
We have experience.
Nice. Raspberry Pi hats of awesomeness. So I give these out all the time, and sometimes people don't know what to do with them. I'm going to add another talk, actually, that would be cool. That would be on OpenFast, on Raspberry Pi. Anybody run OpenFast before, or just dabbled in it? Anybody run AWS Lambda? Yeah, so there's a few people, but these are like little microservices, so they do one thing and then they shut down. Well, OpenFast is a way to do that in a cluster, on a Docker swarm. There's a bunch of different ways to deploy it. The particular example I have done, and I'd like to give a talk on potentially, is I took 4 of these Raspberry Pis and I clustered them. So I named them after South Park characters, and then I'll just unplug Kenny, and they all still keep running. So.
I vote for
On that
Raspberry
note, I
Pi.
could give a talk on Lambda or AWS serverless technologies.
That might, yeah, we were also talking earlier about having a duel between the two. Like
Well, just
a duel of the fates, battle royale.
just talk louder than
Yeah. I think we'd present it at the same time. We're both talking, and we see which side of the audience can hear us better.
Talk, though, I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Buzzwords and all.
Luke. Yeah, that would be good. We need some more web dev talks. You data people just keep taking everything, you know?
Talk about just Terraform and Kubernetes. You use it with the Raspberry Pi and understanding of a data cluster agnostic to the cloud or within the cloud.
With the Raspberry Pi, you think?
Yeah, you can do a Raspberry Pi and Amazon is the same thing.
Who's rating this stuff? Oh, there we go. So what's your...
How dare I? That was
Yes, who is this? Productionalizing data science in Python IE?
that was my suggestion.
Ah, okay.
Mine was the one below it.
Making your unusable, sketchy data science code usable with Luigi. What's Luigi?
Luigi is kind of an ETL package that's Python based. If you used Airflow before, it's kind of similar.
Oh, nice. We had an Airflow talk here. For Airflow or Luigi? Oh. Oh, that's fun. But yeah, that's that stuff. I'm missing something here though. Oh, here it is. Community news. I knew I forgot something. Net neutrality again. Last month I talked about it. The month before I talked about it. Call your, not senator this time, call your representative, please, in your local district, and just say, hey. And by the way, if your rep is, it's number District 2, name the reps. Bishop, who's the other one? Stewart introduced this wonderful new act. It's called the Protecting Internet Freedom Act. Guess what it does? It does the opposite of that. So call him and refer to that particular bill by name and say that you're against it. They do listen. Every time you call, it is tallied. Net neutrality is the only political topic I will bring up in here directly. Sometimes I make jabs, but directly, because this was one that does affect our livelihood. I'm of the very strong opinion that it very much affects our livelihood here in Utah. If you have a small internet startup and you have to pay to play in order that the average person can set it up, just think of like Vivint. That's a very salient example of something that's using a lot of data for a consumer home internet system, and now they couldn't even start up if they had to pay extra in order to be on the lines, or if you had to pay extra for the Vivint plan or the whatever plan on top of what you're paying for Vivint as a service. So just things like that. It's important. Can you imagine if you had to pay an extra $5 a month for the, oh, you're a coder? Well, GitHub isn't available on the normal package. You have to pay another $5 a month, and then you'll get the developer package, which gives you GitHub and Xfinity GitHub, brought to you by Microsoft, because, I don't know. Oh, wait, GitHub is already Microsoft. Anyway, other community news, GitHub plus Microsoft. Everybody heard about this, right? So that's pretty fun.
Not till the end of the year, though. You have time.
Well, I thought it was now.
It's official.
Yeah. I'm not a Microsoft fan. I don't know if I'm a fan of this like union, but I will say that the blog post is one of the best I've read from their new president. It was very, very well written. Yeah, very, very transparent and candid, which sometimes you need.
GitHub needed a buyer. Honestly, Microsoft is the best of a bunch of bad options for that.
Well, what about Google? Just kidding.
Are you kidding?
Joking.
Like,
if Google bought it, it would be gone in like 2 years. Like, oh, nobody's using this. And OpenWest is tomorrow. We have 2 people here at least who are giving talks. Is anybody else giving a talk at OpenWest? Well, where's Tim? I didn't see him. There you are in the back. So Tim and Dylan are both giving 2 talks each. Way to take up all the talks, people. Jeez. Who is? Oh, and Clint. Clint is actually giving a full-on Ansible tutorial workshop. So if you don't know Clint Savage, he is also known as Herlo, I believe. Yes. And he is a prominent member of the meetup down south, Python at the Point. But he also will swing by here. He's the one who figured out how to do a lot of this live streaming stuff. So
Bob Davis is also giving a talk.
Bob, oh yeah, Bob.
Bob's been here.
Yeah,
He's
Bob comes in a lot. So
he's doing a workshop.
Oh, that's cool. Bob Davis, Clint Savage, Dylan G. I don't want to spell your last name right now.
It's okay, I messed up your last name. I don't like either,
It's like last week. Yeah, live coding, but it's last names. Anybody else who know any talks that we should check out? Who's going to OpenWest? A few people. Nice.
Depending on availability.
That's a fun one. And yeah, any other community news stuff that's happening around the valley?
The first Utah Data Engineering Meetup is on June 20th at Overstock.
Yeah, and so the great thing is right off the tracks. So if you take tracks to the Bingham Junction stop, it basically stops right in front of you. You can still see where you think it's from the train, or you can park in just a big parking structure. Don't get signs up right after.
Hello, new face.
I was here a couple times to go back.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay.
He gave a tea story.
Oh, yeah, you were. The things in my eyes. I'm sorry. I was out of town. Okay. I got an excuse. Airflow, right? Okay. We need to. Thank you, Dylan. Sweet.
More details on meetup.com.
Yes. Yeah. So, is this the thing that it's not at the other?
Yeah.
There's two data talks. This is not the recursion pharmaceutical talk.
No, it's not a discussion.
Because this is data engineering, not data science.
Yeah, big difference.
They're two different things.
Yeah, they are two different things.
So that's correct. I mean, the way we view this is kind of engineering that supports data science. So this is productionization, it's building process workflows, it's cloud migration, data management, all kinds of things around data science. And that can be all the way from you're just a developer who's interested in it to you're a DBA who wants to expand the skill set.
Very nice. What's the first talk on?
There's actually going to be a panel, so we're going to have a panel of data engineers who will discuss their perspective on what data engineering is and where it's supposed to be.
Very nice. Very nice. Any other community news? In Utah, out of Utah, the whole world.
Domo filed for their IPO. ...
Domo filed for IPO. And so did that other company that seems to use emojis and billboards. Pluralsight? Anybody?
Pluralsight. Oh, yeah. It's better than Domo.
That was a bad joke. Any other community news? Nothing fun happening in the community? The whole GitHub thing is kind of interesting. Oh, what's up?
I had a comment on that. I was reading this stream of what's going on. So there's been massive migration spinning up VMs on GitLab. But GitLab, someone mentioned, is run on Azure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I noticed that as well.
Microsoft tax either way.
Yep.
You can always run your own GitLab.
Yeah, that's true. You can't run your own GitHub, but you can run your own GitLab on Azure for extra irony.
For extra.
Yeah.
Also, another issue for GitLab is that it's there's something about it being shared source as well, and not necessarily open source for something. And if you care about those things, that's something to worry about.
Yeah.
Also, if you just have your own standalone environment, GOGS is a really lightweit. They can run on Raspberry Pi.
I've used GOGS. I like GOGS.
GOGS?
Yeah.
Cool. And then what was it? Git-T? Have you tried Git-T?
It's similar, but it's so GOGS is so
yeah, and so is Git-T.
Oh, Git-T is a fork of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a community-inspired fork. Yeah, it's
Nice.
It's like this.
Yeah. You know, there's too many open standards.
GitHub?
Sorry, what?
Subversion. That's the big new thing.
Get out.
There's the door, Jacob.
Get out.
Yeah, man, there's too many, like, what was the running joke? You all are really concerned that your distributed version control system centralized server is being owned by Microsoft now, right? Yeah, there's too many open specs. Somebody should write a new one. Now there's even more. Anyway, I'm joked out, it sounds like. So yeah, let's take a 5-minute break while we get Dylan set up, and then we will talk about how to win at data without even trying. So give yourself 5 minutes, grab water, grab the restroom, and we will get started at exactly 7:45.
But someone's got the pen.
I don't think so. It was just staring at you the whole time. You're like dead center in the camera.
I showed them a dick, but it's okay.
No, you didn't.
Oh,
I transitioned it as soon as you did it. Why do you think I sit here? Where are you going to sit here?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
If you haven't had a chance to sign up on the and get a name tag, it's over here. And if you haven't had a chance to make your optional $5 donation, just come up to me. His
Tim
talk
knows.
is how to succeed at data without even trying. He'll be presenting this talk at Open West along with the other talk, which is how to win friends. And what's your other talk?
The other talk is WTF is data science.
Nice. So, without further ado, please welcome Dylan.
Thanks. So my talk here is how to succeed at data without even trying. So my name is Dylan Gregerson. These are some things that I like. I have a cat. I work at Teem. At Teem, I'm the lead data scientist. Teem is working on workplace experiences, particularly room reservations. So we have a conference room display that people go up and book, and it helps coordinate that. I work on a team along with Ken and a couple others to take the data that we're getting from the workplace and help feed that back in so that operations managers and people who are managing the workplace and for the employees themselves so that they can have a better experience throughout their workday and while they're collaborating with other people. So that's Team. You can find me at a couple places. I just put LinkedIn in there, though. So if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll say, yeah. Okay, so starting out, why do we all care so much about data? So here's a quote by Tom Goodwin. Uber, the largest taxi company, owns no vehicles, and Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, has no real estate. The truth behind this is that these companies are doing something, using data and using insights into these industries that the companies that have been doing this for decades, taxi companies that have been around for a long time, can't keep up, and that Uber can grow and become such a large company because of how it's utilizing data. There's a lot of these sort of amazing success stories. In the past few decades, lots of different companies have been leveraging data and to make better decisions. They leverage it for things like increasing sales, where Walmart pioneered this very early on, able to jump up their sales by quite a bit by using data and inventory and figuring out how to manage it and make better decisions. Same thing with Twitter. Companies like Twitter are using it to increase their conversion rate, increase the number of people that are coming to their service, how long they stay with them. And big companies like Google, like Amazon, and Netflix are using data now too to give us something of value back. Netflix goes out and finds out movies that you might want to see, and that sort of data is giving you something of value and feeding you back something that's not just that wasn't there before. So how are they getting these insights? These sorts of success stories feel magical. They come out of nowhere. They're like, oh, Twitter increased their conversions by 30%. And that has led across all sorts of companies going like, we need data. Like, data is what we need. We need to have data in our company, then we're going to have $1 billion. Data, $1 billion. Done. And so we have our pointy-haired boss here who is paying to big data. And it's just this idea that's out there that big data is going to save us and is going to bring us all this money. So how do we do this? How do we get lots of money? How do we make $1 billion with data? Well, the answer is it's not easy. So I know I gave my talk as it's without even trying. It actually is a lot of trying. It's a fairly new field that is just really getting its feet under it, is just maturing. If data, like you think of web development has been around 20 to 30 years. And it's just barely starting to get these pieces in place that we know, like, oh, if you go to build web development, you should have somebody who manages your servers, you should have a back-end dev, a front-end dev, you need to have QA and unit tests. And some of these frameworks are we're getting better and better at what goes into making a web application, making a software application, doing something with computers. Data is 15 years behind that. We're currently in the realm of figuring out how to do this and how to do it really well. The truth is we can though. So there are these basic building blocks and these foundations that we're starting to say, okay, if you want to really do well with data, you need to start here. You need to build these pieces into place. This is the kind of infrastructure that you might need and the kind of people and skill sets that you need. So we're getting to the point where it's going to be all businesses. It's going to be a competitive advantage that if one business is not gathering data and making insights and making decisions based on it, companies that aren't doing that are going to be leveraged out. They're not going to be able to compete. So this is sort of this ability to gather data and build insights is going to be in lots of businesses. It's going to be everywhere. And this talk is to start with, okay, what are our fundamentals? What are some of the things that we build upon in order to actually get insights from data and succeed in this new realm of using data to make decisions? So starting with data basics. All right, so data basics. So this on the left here is the data science hierarchy of needs. So if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these are our basic building blocks. You can't get to the next level unless you have that first level. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your first level is things like safety, shelter, and food. On data, our first level is collecting data in the first place. And then we move up through our hierarchy of needs to get to more of these insights and to get to this point where we are being able to drive really fundamental business decisions based on the data that we're gathering. So starting at the bottom of this pyramid of needs. So before you can do anything with data, before you can have any plot or understand it, you have to first gather it. If you're not gathering data, you're not going to be able to make a plot, to make a model, to make an analysis. So our data collection is based on things that happen in the real world. So with data, what we're trying to do is capture real phenomena that are happening. Somebody going and viewing something, somebody going outside, the temperature changing, a particular action. We're capturing something that is going on, that a human is doing, that is happening in the real world. And the sources of this could be generated from computers. We could get this from user-generated content, from things like surveys, from asking users, from watching them. We can get it from sensors, and we can get it from other data stores. There's already, when we start to get into this gathering data, there are data sources out there like the USGS that collects this data from their raw sensors and then stores it for you. And so that might become one of these data sources as you are trying to capture a particular phenomena and learn something about it, and then be able to take an action. That's where data is really powerful, is when we can take something that's happening in the real world, look at it in a new way, see something new, and some way that we can influence that, and then do that. So our second step on this hierarchy of needs is cleaning and structuring and storing the data. So if our first step was just grab that data point, put it somewhere. The second step is, okay, I've got a bucket of data. I'm going to take that data and I'm going to restructure it, organize it into concepts that make sense, that try to capture that phenomena, whether it's like a customer, a product, and put those pieces together as relationships. And this step, as the adage goes, is 80% of the work. So the biggest chunk of your data work, the biggest place that you're going to spend the most time is just getting this step right. The bottom step, and things that go wrong up above, things that go wrong in other places, end up coming back to this step. Did you clean your data? Is there something going wrong with how your data is coming to you, or how you're gathering your data? And you learn about that at that ETL step. At that ETL is extraction, transformation, and loading. You're pulling the data out, you're doing transformations to clean it, and then you're putting it somewhere else. And those indicate back towards this data collection. And so you have this interplay. Well, you will spend some time collecting data, trying to organize it, and realizing you're missing something, going back, collecting something new, or improving your collection process, and going back and cleaning your data and creating a clean store that represents your concepts that you're trying to capture. I get my points here. Yeah, so this is where you find gaps, this is where you find errors and inconsistencies. And this is also where you're developing, when you're working in this, you develop your intuition about your data, about the domain that it's part of. And this is how you can start to then take that next step into analyzing it and processing it. If you go through this, you start to become very familiar with what the data could possibly tell you and what it can't. So the next level on our hierarchy of needs. So we've gathered it. We put it in a place that we can understand it, that it makes sense. The next step is, let's see what it looks like. Maybe we just do a scorecard. You just have a number, just one number of how many customers are total in your system. Or you have something that you track over time. How many users come to a web page per day? These are just counts, and you can watch them, you can make benchmarks, and this is that first level. So this is the very first level of where you can actually realize value, where you can say, okay, I see how many daily active customers, and I'm going to go out and do something, like go talk to 100 people and try to get them on my platform. Then I come back to this, and I can see the action that's happened. This is the first place that data has value to people other than the nerds that just like to have it organized. This is the part where you can actually share it with somebody and where somebody else can take that and try to go out and do something with it. And notice this is the third step up. So these first steps, if you just build a really nice data warehouse, for example, your business users are not going to know what to do with it. You can't just say, yay, I built a data warehouse. They're like, cool. And why? What am I going to do with it? This is the first step. This is the step where you need to stop. Early on, this is the first place where there's value. This is the first place where you can actually show something. This is where you need to actually take it and deliver something and then iterate again to gather more data because as we go through this process of cleaning it, we're building lots of infrastructure at the same time. We're building processes. We're building all these different things. Stopping here and keeping your project simple to begin with, you can give value to your end users. You can deliver something that they can use and then create better things and then move up the hierarchy. This step right here isn't over right away. This step isn't over once you reach it. You have to spend some time developing each of these steps. But this is the one where you're going to actually show somebody this is valuable. This is worth doing. The first steps, you're just getting to this in the first one, if you start from scratch, it's a 1 to 3 month endeavor to get to here. And at the end of those months, you're going to have that person that's paying your salary like, okay, when am I going to see this? When am I going to see the interesting things? When are we going to get $1 billion? And you go, here's customer count. And it's also on you to tell them why they care. So, okay, here's a customer count. They're like, okay, is this going to increase conversion? You're like, maybe. Eventually, it will. Today, what you can do is these things. Go out and do this, and then we'll come back to this number. Watch this chart and see how it changes. So my first big idea of this is your early data projects should be kept simple. You should stay at these 3 levels. The first step, the first time you go through it, is going to be this 1 to 3 month process. To get it really well, to feel like your business users are always getting value and it is driving really important change, that's 1 to 2 years. You'll spend 2 years on these first 3 steps getting something really good into place. But during that time, you can have really big successes. You don't need predictive modeling. You don't need machine learning to have data transform your business. You just need to get to this step and to be surfacing this conceptual model of what is going on to your end users, whether they're internal, whether they end up being external, and so that they can make decisions and take actions and change make changes that they want to see. So another benefit, some of the benefits of stopping here. At this step, it's easier to explain to your stakeholders. Most of the people that you have to explain this to do not understand algorithms. They don't understand machine learning models. To explain PCA to one of them is going to be a whole meeting. At the end, they're going to be like, "Oh, that was a waste." Like, if you can't explain it to your stakeholders, they won't use it. So this first step, when you are just counting, you're just counting the number. That's something that, like, okay, I can get behind you. I can follow, like, that's number of users, got it. And as you're building this up, you're also educating your end user. The person that's consuming your analytics needs to feel like they can understand it and take an action with it. So through this process, if you're starting from scratch, building this first level where they can actually see something, see the data, get used to thinking about, oh, well, why is that number not right? Why did this number change? Why did these two go together? And this is when you go back down and you're like, oh yeah, that's not right. We need to collect this number instead. Or we need to actually manipulate this thing. And you work on your data collection, you work on your ETL, and you get those things so that they're reliable and you can trust those basic numbers that you're just counting. You can build to this level faster than if you try to go to the predictive models. If you try to build modeling in right at the beginning, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because you have to do, the hierarchy of needs says you have to do the basic things before it. If you try to jump ahead of it, then you're going to just rush doing these things and not do it well. And that's going to create a tech debt for you in the long term. It's like releasing code. Yeah, I can release code without QA. I can release code without DevOps. I can log in the machine, git pull, done. Should I? Come on, Paris. I just want to. I just want to so bad. It's so much faster, right? It's so much faster. But you're shooting yourself in the foot. We know that because we've had the experiences. We've had as a community, we've learned and matured that, oh, you don't want to do that. Data is just learning that now. The whole industry of data is getting to the point where they're like, oh, wait, yeah, no, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Make sure you have alerting in place. Make sure you have logging in place. Make sure you have data redundancies in place. Make sure you have some of these things so that it's not going to go down on you, and then your model doesn't mean anything because you're spending so much time fixing the underlying thing. And you spend so much time fixing the bottom pieces that your business user goes, wait, where is that model that I started to use? You know, why is where are the numbers that I'm trying to get? And you spend now 8 months, 10 months, a year just trying to get this really fancy model in place and get it to all work. And during that time, if you're not delivering value to your end users, to your business users, they're going to see you as not valuable. And this is where data science projects fail. Is when your boss's bosses don't see the data projects as valuable because it takes so long to do it, to do the fancy things, that they say, okay, well, we're going to just get rid of this, or we're going to try to do something else, or it's not going to get anywhere. And the stuff that you do, the really valuable stuff that you think you're trying to make a change with, are not going to be adopted. Nobody's going to care. These first steps, once you get to that level, that's where you can actually give something to somebody. You can surface a dashboard, you can surface a report, and have somebody go, okay, I get why it matters. So what does this look like? What is, a lot of us are engineers in here, like, okay, I get the concept, cool. You gotta gather data first. So here's a pipeline, essentially what we've built at Teem. Starting on the left, this is the hierarchy of needs for that first 3 steps, right? We go from data collection to processing and cleaning to visualization. And there's different tools out there that do these pieces. No tool out there is going to solve it for you. These things are hard. There's lots of tools out there. If you go call up a rep from Good Data or Domo, Domo's going to tell you, oh yeah, no, we can solve this for you. Oh, it's done. You could give us money, it's done. You're at the analytics. But that's not true, because they actually do a lot of this work for you. or handhold you and charge you a premium for it. So if you're out there and you're the one that's building it, these are sort of you have to work through these steps. These are some of the ideas. This is the current overarching kind of like architecture that's out there. You have some sort of tool that's collecting something that's happening in the real world, whether that's your web app, whether that's a mobile app, whether that's a sensor that's out there. You want to put it onto some sort of streaming service, so stack that up on a queue. Kafka is the really popular one. Then from that queue, you want something that puts it into a raw store, so that then you just have this bucket of raw data. Okay, cool. That's that first hierarchy of needs. That next hierarchy of needs, you have some sort of scheduler, some sort of job manager, whether that's real time, depending on your needs. So like Lambda does things in real time, Amazon Lambda. Or whether you're doing batch processes, where you take a chunk of data, process it, push it through. Having some sort of job manager there is important to schedule your jobs, to make sure that they run on time, run in the right order. Make sure you know when they don't run or when they're having problems. And there's several tools out there that help you with that piece. And then you have some sort of structured relational store. So you want to use probably something that's columnar, something that works really well with large data sets, but that has relationships. So you can build these conceptual models into your data set. Then your final level is having some sort of reporting tool or having some sort of external service. There are various BI tools out there that can help, such as Domo or Looker. And that is what your end product looks like that you're going to give to your end user to have them take and then do something with. That's not my computer. However, this quote. The center of the data complexity is not the technology we use, it's the people and process. It's getting people to care about and use the data. It's getting people to give you the right data and make sure that it stays clean. It's how you interact with your project managers, product managers, with people who are deciding, or how you're deciding what things do I go after, what numbers do I get. Figuring that stuff out is much harder than that infrastructure I just showed. We could probably all spend a weekend and hack together that infrastructure that I put up there. But getting the other things together and getting them to work well and get them to work operationally within your business, that's the hard thing. That's what makes it difficult. So data is more about process and people than it is technology. So with that, the next thing along this journey is to work on practicing good product development. And this right here is the traditional product development lifecycle. I'm going to go through this in the context of data and what we want to build. We start out with some sort of concept, an idea. We move to research that idea and see sort of where does it fit into the other ideas, what other things can we pull in, how do we really enrich this idea and make it good. And then we move into okay, now how are we going to get this done, the business assessment. We have this really cool idea, we know what we need, how are we going to build it, what teams do we need, what resources do we need, how long is it going to take. Then you actually say, okay, I got a plan of how long it's going to take, who I need, now go do it. And then we have the final step of, okay, once it's done, how do we launch it and get it out there and get it adopted? So in data, one of the hardest problems, one of the things to encounter the most with data illiteracy, people who don't understand, is knowing what problem you're solving and what action you're going to do when you're done with that. In this first step, you want to identify your stakeholders. These are the people that are going to give you the ideas, the questions that they want to answer and take actions on. Document these questions, but dive deep into finding out what the root problem is, what they're trying to solve, and identify the action they're going to take once they get there. I want to give an example. So, Teem. One of the metrics that our customers ask for the most, and this is probably the closest, most relevant thing, is they say, what's the utilization of my rooms? How many of my, like, what is the utilization of my rooms? That's the question we get asked. Tell me the utilization number. Okay, cool. And you're going to get, working in data, you get people coming to you all the time. What's this number? Tell me this number. You're okay. Your first response would be, what problem are you trying to solve? Because the number is not the problem. The number is a means to an end. The number is supposed to tell that person something that they want to do. But that's not actually what they want to do. So for Teem, utilization, okay, utilization of what? Well, of my rooms. Well, okay, so what do you mean by that? Why do you want to know the utilization? Well, I want to know if somebody can find a room when they need to. Okay, there's a problem. Somebody's trying to go out and find a room. Can they find the room that they need? So now you're getting into, okay, that's the problem I want to solve. Utilization can help with that. If you're at 100% utilization, well then, no, they can't find a room. So they want to use utilization to help figure that out. But there's other things you can then pull in. When you start talking about the problem, you can start talking about a more rich way to solve that using data. And when you start to say, okay, what are you going to do once you know this number? A good example from Teem is the average meeting length. Somebody comes to me and says, okay, what's the average meeting length for my company? I say 1 hour. Because that is, across the board, an hour is your average meeting length. Okay, what do you do with that? You change how people meet? No, they probably need that hour to meet. So you're going to look at that number once, you're going to go, cool, an hour, and you're going to forget it. Utilization is only important because it changes over time. Because that person can go out and make an action. Well, I'm going to go add a whole new floor of rooms. I'm going to convert these 5 rooms into conference rooms. Oh, suddenly they made an impact. They can watch that number change. That number is more important to them than the hours that a meeting, how long a meeting takes. So this is know the problem you're trying to solve and the action that will be taken. If somebody comes to you with a number, to say, what problem are you trying to solve? What are you going to do once you know that number? It can be frustrating for that person because they're like, oh, it's obvious. But working through that is helping them become literate. This is the process that you have to do if you're going to ask the questions yourself and answer them. And this is the process you're going to help them do to be more successful in the end. Is if they can start to identify the problems and how the data is going to help them solve that problem, then you are both winning in using data to actually do something. So moving down in our product development lifecycle, scoping out the needs to answer that question. So once you have kind of found this question, starting to figure out okay, do you need to know this right now? Or is this something you're going to need to know quarterly? Or is this something you're going to need to know monthly? Do you need to know this hourly? Do you need to know this real time, like within a second of it happening? Who are the people that are going to help you along this route? So what other teams can you talk to? What are the other the places that you could gather data that might be related to this question? This is where you're sort of diverging your thinking. You're starting with some sort of idea and you're exploring the space. What are the opportunities? What can we do with this once we built it? If we create this number, could we build something with it? Could we do something more with it? And what would be the worst thing that somebody could do? Could somebody use this maliciously? This last one is interesting in sort of breaking out some of the concepts and some of the biases that we might have just in ourselves about how the data is going to be used. And this gets you into, like, again, back to that, what's the action you're going to take? You start to think about, okay, here's a number. What are all the different actions? If you start to think about what's the worst action, you can then span the realm of, okay, what's the best action? So once you have the idea of the space that you're working in, the data that you're going to be collecting, that first step or that second step, by the way, you might actually be exploring some data, poking around, gathering some metrics, seeing kind of what the data looks like. Not really creating your full number, but maybe like pull the API and see what the data looks like. And you're like, oh, that doesn't have all the things I need. This next step is, okay, now we're going to actually create the requirements. We're going to write down, we expect it to look like this, to do this. We expect, this is the question we're answering. We're going to gather this data, and we expect it to tell us this. And then we're going to expect to do this afterwards. So this is where you're determining the definition of success. How do you know when this project is done? Well, when we have this number in a dashboard, we're done. This project is a success. Along with the idea of like QA, doing QA, having product design and architecture reviews, having somebody else look at this, doing code reviews as well is really important, so that we're checking ourselves. It helps us have a higher quality in what we're developing. Determining what people you're going to have to work with. If you're going to have to create a dependency, this happens at Teem a lot. There's the web team, of which Ferris is part of. And Ferris is over there coding away his thing, and I have something that runs and that pulls from that. I need to make sure that when he's working on it, he's not going to disrupt my pipeline for my gathering of data. If I need something new, I need to have a working relationship with Ferris so that I can go to him and be like, okay, this is the thing we need. How is it going to fit in with your workload? How are we going to play this process together so that I can get the data and actually create this product that we're working on developing? And then estimating costs, estimating time zones and milestones. Once we expect to kind of get to this in like a couple weeks, we expect to get this, and break your work down. Don't say like, oh, well, I'm going to deliver the number. Say, okay, first thing we're going to do, my first milestone is I got to make sure that the number I want to grab is going into an S3 bucket. It's just being captured. It's that first hierarchy of needs, right? Or maybe I'm just building the tool that's going to pull it. I don't even know where it's going to go yet. Then the next step is, okay, I know where it's going to go. And those are sort of milestones that you can, and task management that you can figure out and then communicate. Now we're actually creating something. All the other stuff is boring, right? Like creating something, as you're building it, make sure that you're working on some of these things that keep your quality good. Always work on keeping your data clean. Only let clean data into your pipeline. It's okay if there's dirty data out there and around. Work on keeping your little corner of the world organized, and work on bringing people to rally against yours is the source of truth. If you have some of the worst things that can end up happening with data is people don't trust your numbers. People don't find it reliable. If people doubt the numbers, they're not going to use what you develop. So work on making sure that that is a really quality product that's coming out there. There's an analogy too that I heard, totally different context. A chair. A chair is a product, right? What happens if the chair 5% of the time disappeared? We expect it to support us, right? We expect it to be there. We trust it. But if 5% of the time it had only 5% reliability and it disappeared, I'm going to think twice about sitting down in the chair, right? So reliability is really important, and it's important with data, partly because people also don't understand it. They don't understand what goes into it and how that gets defined. Stay focused. It's easy to get distracted by other, maybe more important questions. Document those questions, put them away, organize them, create their own projects out of them. If you really do find something more important, stop your project, communicate that, and then start a new project. This is that, okay, we got multiple projects going on, we want to work on one. Oh, we found something more important. Well, let's pivot, let's change and work on a new project. Start back at the beginning. What's our definition? How do we diverge that into all the possible realms and work our way through this product management, product development life cycle? Documentation is really important. This is the documentation of questions, but also things you learn about the data. Documenting definitions that you develop. So as you develop definitions that might affect somebody, you want to communicate those and make sure that people understand, okay, when I say an active customer, I mean that's a customer who has filled out a subscription, who has signed up already, and who has deployed a license. So all those things have to be true for them to get the flag active. Because you'll end up going to different areas of your business, and they're like, no, an active customer is just somebody who's paid us. You're like, no, an active one is somebody who's using our stuff. And having those sorts of debates, if you can have a clear definition, those definitions should have a place, and you're working on your documentation. So as you're building this infrastructure, as you're building that first 3 levels, you're working on these things. How do you get backup and security and make sure that your data is secure and follows GDPR? How do you make sure that you have good architecture that has testing and alerts? If something goes wrong, will you know about it? If your load doubled, if you got twice as much data all of a sudden, would your system break? These are things that you should think about as you're creating it and work into that process. And that's why it's important to keep that first deliverable just real simple. If you keep it simple, that allows you some space to work on this stuff. And if you deliver something in the end, that means that's what your end user is going to be like, oh, great. And that's what us as people who are developing this and as engineers care about, having it stay reliable over the long term. And these are the pieces that have to go into place. Your business user is not going to care about your backup until it goes down. So after we've built all of this, we're going to launch it. And launching it requires syncing back up with that stakeholder that you have and helping them be able to utilize it and evaluate, go back to what did you say was success? Okay, well, they have this dashboard. Now do they know how to use it? Are they going to be able to take an action? And sync back up with them. And you'll need to probably do this a couple times. It's not just like handing something. Data still requires some education to know how to use it. It's like, okay, what do I do? And if you give them some clear actions and you say, okay, go do one of these things, it should probably align with what they want to do already, but now they can evaluate the success based on the numbers that you give them. Learn to speak the language of your stakeholders. If you're talking to a CEO, don't tell them about PCA and machine learning models. Like, talk to them in terms that they understand. And this can also, in my experience, turn into things that are like, I really care about a number, and I'm like, oh, you know, like I did this error analysis on it, I looked at this number, I took random data samples out of it, I tested it in a couple different ways, and the number is somewhere between like 61% and 79%. And my product manager looks at me and goes, cool, 75%, got it. 75%, and my mind is like, no, that's not it. It's this range of numbers, and it's probably closer to this end because it's asymmetric errors, and I'm like, But your end user is going to take that number, 75%, and use it to make an action. Are they making, what I try to start to ask myself is, the decisions that they're going to make, is it accurate? Is it somewhere in the realm of what the data was telling me? If those align, and it's kind of honest to what the data was telling me, I'm not even going to tell them the error bar. I'm not going to tell them some of these things. I'm going to jump right to 75%, and they're going to be great. Because what the end thing is the action that that person is going to take based on that information and the numbers that they understand and can keep in their head for a long time. And so if that accurately represents the data, it's an approximation. Think of it like binning, if that helps you. But that is what you can give to them so that they can go out and make a choice, take an action, and actually do something with your data and make it valuable. Your data is not valuable until somebody does something with it. Evaluating, reviewing with your stakeholders and evaluating what they expected to come out of it. Oh, I expected this number to be this. Why is it not that? This sort of like evaluating expectations, if they're like, oh, that's not what I expected. This can reveal things in your pipeline and help you identify problems and help you build better data. And that sort of discussion, once you engage your stakeholder in talking about like, okay, well, where did that data point come from? Why is that this number but not that one? Then you're actually, that whole process is educating them about how you collect data, how it goes through the pipeline, and how they can interpret the results. This last piece I tacked on to launch. With data, it's also important to make sure that it stays relevant, that errors that arise, and that it's still relevant to your end users, that it's still valuable. Errors in data are very different than errors in code. Errors in code often crash your app. Like, they raise bugs, they give you 500 errors. Errors in data don't tell you. They're like, over here. I'm just wrong, but I'm just going to go through your pipeline just fine and end up over here. And they don't tell you when it's wrong. It's really hard. And then you don't know when it went wrong. You don't know why it went wrong. And then you're like, oh no, is the whole thing end? Where did it go wrong? You spend days like going through data point by data point. Where did this thing come from? Oh, it's that. That's what's wrong. So reviewing these things on a regular basis, reviewing your own dashboards, you're delivering it, reviewing those dashboards with the stakeholders again at a monthly, a quarterly, yearly basis. Having one idea is metrics meetings, where you start your meeting, start your stand-ups by looking at your plot and just like sit with it for a second. Like have 5 minutes of silent time where we just look at the plot and see what you think. And if anything comes out of that, is there anything new that you might learn or new questions you might have where you're like, no, this isn't useful anymore. And then you can get rid of that. You can keep the products that you're providing valuable and keep improving that. And this last one's domain specific, so review with particular stakeholders to make sure that it's still valuable and that they're still able to take action. So you win at data if we continue through this development life cycle, if you start with the data basics and you progressively build complexity over time. So that first step, you just keep going through this, keep iterating through this cycle, work on those first few levels, and then work on adding that next level. Work on adding a level after that. Do some experimentation, but if you continue to deliver products at that first level and then work on delivering products at the next level, then you can deliver things that last and things that are valuable and continue to iterate through this process and eventually get to the machine learning, get to deep learning, and get to really really cool technology that can optimize a solution and just do really, really cool things. So rinse and repeat. Go through your product development life cycle. These processes to success, walking through your hierarchy of needs, continuing on this product development life cycle where you come up with your question, you figure out how you're going to tackle it, you set expectations. You don't go into something saying like, oh, just find out what's useful. No. What questions are important? How are we going to solve this for you? And then delivering and maintaining and just cycling through this. So evolving complexity over time. Eventually you will get to that, but most companies spend 2, 3, 8, 10 years on those first 3 levels. They spend another 3 years in just that next level. They spend another year on that last level. And they spend another year. Well, guess what? That's like 15 years, right? What are the best companies in class? How long have they been doing this? About 15, 20 years. We are at a place where we're still working on these first 3 levels and getting that really solid before we move on. So keeping those first things, keeping your project simple. Data is more about process than the technology that goes into it. Recognizing that and recognizing how you build good process, how you work with other people, the product development life cycle, and then I just have this again as part of product development, but knowing the problem you're trying to solve and what the action's going to take. That one alone can save you in so many cases when your end user comes and asks for a number and you could say, okay, why? Why do you want to know? And dive into that and really get to something that is meaningful to them and can help create real change. Whew. I got some references of things that went into this talk, and good luck out there.
Anybody have questions for Dylan? Oh, so many.
I love the presentation.
Thank you.
I just wish you would have, you threw out 3 or 4 acronyms. You explained one really well, but there are 2 on the slide right there, and there's another one that you threw out.
Okay.
That could have been explained.
Okay.
Which acronyms?
Yeah.
PPA, I think you threw out.
Say that one more time.
KPI, it was a machine learning algorithm, I think we led.
PCA.
PCI?
Yes.
And then there's KPI and BI. Maybe nobody, people don't know what those mean.
Yeah, that's good. So
process indicator.
Yeah, I explained ETL. KPI is key performance indicator. Process performance. BI is business intelligence. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
PCA is principal component analysis.
Yeah.
Right?
That one was supposed to. That was picking fancy words. Because.
YMCA.
Yeah, YMCA.
This is a great talk. Thank you.
Thanks.
This made me think quite a bit, right? One of the things that you mentioned, you know, you're talking, you said, well, you do this, you do this, you do this. How do you guys actually break that up? Because that's like a lifetime's worth of work, right? How do you like assign responsibilities to different people and sort of like in such a way that you can keep structured, right? Because you can't have one person that's responsible for collecting the data and building the structured storage and doing the visual analytics. Right?
So, yeah, I think part of this is because, I think to answer your question, I think the industry is very new. And we have this data scientist that we expect to be a unicorn to come in and do actually all of that. If you're a data scientist, your job is to do all of that. I'm sorry, but that is. This is actually a bunch of people's jobs, and it's a bunch of people's jobs to coordinate and organize. I had a friend recently talk to me. He was talking specifically about software development, but he then took it to when somebody goes to build like this building, there's a lot of things you have to coordinate. You have to coordinate plumbing, you have to coordinate electricity, materials, who's going to build which pieces, when certain things come into place. When you go into a project like building a building, we've been doing that for 50, 100 years, right? We know, well, like, more. but like modern with cranes and levers and electricity. Those are much longer. But building a building like this, and we know that we have to hire like general contractors. We know we have to hire managers. We have to hire, and we don't expect the plumber to put in the sheetrock. You know, like we've figured it out, more or less. We know what it takes. Software development is 30 years around, right? Like we're just starting to figure out. Oh, yeah, product managers are a good idea. Project managers are a good idea. QA is a good idea. We should not expect the developers to do their own QA.
Everything works on my machine.
It works on that. Like we're starting to figure out how all those pieces work together in a good way. Data is 15 years behind that. And this is sort of pushing that level of like, okay, yeah, no, this is hard to do. And you need to do it really well, you hire giant teams. You hire teams and teams of just people who work on cleaning the data. And you have managers that make sure that those people are doing good things for your analysts. You hire business analysts, you hire data analysts that are just writing SQL queries and making plots and communicating those results. And they don't deal with that. They don't deal with modeling. They don't deal with the product, like what's the product that they build, because you have somebody in charge of that. As we build and scale these systems to do bigger things like create a building or build a web app, we're going to have to build these things up and learn how to do it right.
So the thought there is like, you're talking, and I'm like, we really ought to have some data product managers.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that you've seen?
Do you want to speak to that, Joe?
Do you want to speak to it?
Presenter. Yeah. I could speak to it. Actually,
bringing you along tomorrow, right?
I should.
I think for data products, I think you're going to see more data-specific roles popping up, though, because Dylan alluded to, especially in the last couple slides, it's a different beast. It's not like software where the bugs pop up, and you got to think about it a lot differently. But yeah, there's along this pyramid, there's a lot of things that need to happen, and I think a different mindset entirely. Because there's a lot of cargo culting going on right now with data science, data this, data that. You're trying to shoehorn a lot of I think, misunderstood and misfit things into the data world. But the problem is, there's what's the you know where the boundary is between data and engineering, because you know when things break. As you said, that data is a bit more sneaky, but what are the practices and what's the boundary between the two? I think it remains to be seen, or at least defined. So yeah.
Cool. Are there other questions? Oh.
Can you revisit your slide with the whole the processing with all the arrows?
Yeah. We get this is
not those arrows.
Yeah, I know. This is the engineering slide, right? This is
Yes.
the one you're like, ooh, cool, engineering. I get this. None of the soft stuff, Dylan. Not project management, talking to people.
Just.
Can you go through? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, just more for brevity. When you were talking about your team example, you can. I was thinking of 42 Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Like you could totally throw that out there.
As a team or a...
They asked the wrong question.
You asked the wrong question.
Oh,
What's
right.
the meaning to life, the universe, and everything?
Yeah.
42. It only took 10,000 years to figure that out.
Yep. That's good. So you have a question about this first?
I just wanted to see the slide because my head couldn't turn all the way because my back is hurting, so I just wanted to read this part. But
Okay.
yes. Maybe it's hard to read this, by the way. Can people see this?
No.
We're kind of guinea pigs for a grader talk, so maybe that's.
Is it?
It's not legible.
Are they going to have a bigger screen though?
No, probably not.
Smaller at most.
Confidence level low on that one. Probably not.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to get up there and be on the stage and be really like shocked.
It's gotten a lot.
I've actually had to do that.
I think
if people know what
on the other
Redshift is, they're
slides,
going to know what the Redshift icon is.
Yeah.
You went through all of them
That's
except
fair.
for the visualization one, I think, probably.
Yeah. And that's where Python fits in. Is
Yeah, you can use Python.
um,
I did want to keep it kind of agnostic to like.
Yeah,
really
just think of some
debugging
general
it.
icons and like some ellipsis, and you should get a good path.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And you should have like a slide where it's like, then you end up with this, and then it's a matplotlib of like how many like horses have walked past your house or something.
Zero.
Yes.
One comment I'd make about the presentation is when you're describing a life cycle, make it a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah, the
model for
maintenance
life
becomes a
cycle
circle.
is circular.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool.
Just
Time is a flat circle.
Cool.
I don't know how hard it would be to change it.
One of my favorite ideas from the talk was, it was very small, but it was a part about giving the plot like some 5 minutes of silence. And I really, really, really want people to have data meditation in their meetings.
That was
Just
one.
think about this. Meditation.
Exactly. That idea was something I read out of. It's DJ Patil. If anybody knows who that guy is, DJ Patil. He's I just like that name. And he was Obama's lead data scientist, chief data scientist for the U.S. And that was his idea. It was like, yeah, have part of your stand-up is 5 minutes of silent reading. He said, but it's plot reading. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do you recommend somebody get started to learn these basic steps of the
Can I answer that a little?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a data background?
Nope.
Do you have a Python
I have a mathematics
background?
So it's related.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I started with Linux and then I fell in love with Python. Something that turned me way on to starting to do data science was Kaggle.com. Have you used that? Kaggle, I don't know how to say it. Kaggle.com.
Yeah, Kaggle's the other.
Yeah. I think that's something else. Do not go to that website. Irvin's just like, I don't know what's going on. And they have a Titanic example. Our next meetup is actually going to cover that example from front to back. What they did is they take the data set of everybody on the Titanic, and all kinds of features about them, and then whether or not they lived and died, and then it'll teach you to write a model to figure out like, hey, would a person with these features survive or not? And then you fit against that. But it walks you through all the little points of that. Another thing, I took a Coursera course, and it was covering all of data science with Python, and it uses pandas, and it gives you a really good idea of all the stuff in the pipeline. And I literally spent 4 months just learning all the stuff, including visualization, and now I'm on the part of modeling. And I think you went through with that too, but
PyCon, don't forget about the tutorials you can see on YouTube.
Oh yeah, all the PyCon tutorials, there's a ton.
I would say with data though, another good thing is to develop a good BS detector.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to know what's good data and good assumptions and bad assumptions. It's like technologies, I think to a certain extent are good to know, but you got to have the underlying mental models and framework to really understand data. There's a really good book, How to Lie with Statistics. I think it was written in the 50s. It's still one of my favorite data books. And it's only about, I don't know, less than 100 pages. I could be lying about that too. But
yeah.
It's a short book, and I think just understanding things like that and honing your BS detector, I think will go a long way towards making you just a better data person and a better person.
I think also, if you're into hardware.
Another good book is Weapons of Mass Destruction.
Yeah.
If you're into hardware stuff too, taking a Raspberry Pi and turning it into a weather sensor, like a temperature sensor,
or
take it from that sort of, if you like playing around with those technologies and you want a thing to do with your Raspberry Pi you're gonna win, then like set it up as a weather detector, create a database for it, so you gather that data, put it somewhere, maybe put it in, try to go out. The USGS has free data, so you can say, how does your sensor compare to their data? And if you just want to start playing around with like, how close is if you just want to answer a question that's just like a technical question, how close is my sensor data weather to what the USGS reports or what Google reports for that matter?
I'm gonna one up Dylan actually and say install Home Assistant, because then you don't need to buy any external like hardware or whatever, and it comes with a Python notebook. It literally, one of the tabs is you can dive in, and Home Assistant will take all of the smart crap in your house, your Chromecast, weather, like you just tell it your latitude, longitude. You just configure all that, and it'll just start logging it. And then you want to look at it, it literally has a tab that has a Python notebook that you can open at any time. So, Home Assistant. Home Assistant. There will be a talk about it at Open West. That was my proposal, but this guy probably did it better, I hope. But yeah, that's what I did with my other Raspberry Pi, is it's currently going through all of the crap in my house, like it connects to my solar panels and a lot of other stuff and compares. So, Chase, what did you say?
I just wanted to add to that too, if you're doing it from like a web background, Elk is a really good starting point from the data aggregation perspective.
Elk.
Yeah, Elasticsearch Loggers.
Yes.
So it's a stack, one of those fun, 3-letter ones, and then you can utilize Grafana to get that real like heavy visualization. That'll get you on the first 3 sets, but it's not going to help you learn modeling.
Right. But it will help with that. By the way, I'm wearing my Elasticsearch socks today.
And to add a little bit more too to this, Kaggle actually doesn't help you with the first 2 steps very well. They usually give you pretty clean data sets. So if you're focusing on that step, that's sort of it. Go ahead.
Dylan and I talk about this all the time, and Joe will give a knowing nod. Don't start with a solution and then search for the problem. Find a problem that you really want to know the answer to, and then you're going to have to go through that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I see this a lot. Like, I'm hired to come in and be a data scientist for companies, only to find out that they need to, and if you look at the hierarchy of needs, they're like at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so, you have to have the heart-to-heart with them and tell them that, because I think a lot of people want to start with it's like a hammer and nail situation right now with data science. Just because you have TensorFlow doesn't mean you should use it. Like yesterday, I was on the phone with a friend who works at a popular business intelligence tool, and they're attaching TensorFlow on top, but it was the marketing team told them to do that.
Yeah. The marketing team.
Because headlines.
One more thing, if I can add though, is find a data set you're also passionate about. There are some really interesting ones locally. Vancouver used to do they still do an open data conference, so I started trying to look at some open data in Salt Lake. We don't have as much. Vancouver had like every single tree in Vancouver had its own like entry in a database and like the species of tree and things like that, and they were cross-referencing that against surveys of pipes to figure out, hey, this tree species is probably going to hit this pipe, so we need to replace this pipe. But one that I found in Salt Lake City that I own, this is like full disclaimer, yes, this is the data set that I've cleaned and put on, is the crime statistics for Salt Lake County. Every single one of them, anytime somebody makes a call and anytime somebody gets reported, they're two different tables. So I merged them, and it also projected it onto the Utah GIS projection, which is not the standard latitude and longitude, so I went and cleaned that. So that's mine, that's up on Kaggle right now, and you can see a heat map of where crime is happening. Now, something I discovered, what's a heat map actually tell you when you do a heat map of stuff? Where people live. So, yeah. And in this case, all the crime looks like it's on the streets, but it's not really on the streets, obviously. That's just where they report in the cruiser. But it was still a really fun project to do. And there's other ones, all kinds of data that Salt Lake is always pushing out. And once you start cleaning it, you realize stuff like that. Like, oh, this isn't actually telling me what I thought it was.
And just to come back to this hierarchy of needs, this is a perfect example where he took two data sets that was raw, even a third like algorithm, brought them together, cleaned them up, put them into something, and got a count. Like, here's a spot on the map, here's the number that happened there. That's a count, right? You could then take this and start to model it. If you had an idea of like, okay, if I see these dots on this street, that means it happened here.
Yeah.
Okay. Or over here, and you're like, okay, my model, if I detect a point here, that means the crime actually happened here. The model is helping you extrapolate or fill in where it might have happened. And so then you can start to, if you start to layer a model on top of your number, then you can start to get to different, you can ask different questions.
The only things I'm seeing that are actually violating the hierarchy of needs right now is when you're starting to deal with more unstructured data, and you have an AI use case, especially from a product perspective. So if you're doing like image recognition, because you don't have structured data, so you don't really need to do anything. So in a lot of cases, I talk with some friends who are in this field, and it becomes almost an easier data science use case, but it still is a data science use case.
Well, maybe it's still there, but it's, yeah, I was going to say the stuff is probably just smaller.
Perhaps the labeling's a hard part.
Yeah, but there are other people's labels that we use.
But it's sort of, I mean, it's shortened.
If you're interested in OCR, by the way, a great talk that is online, because all the Python talks were online, was birding with Python, and this guy wrote a birding, like bird watching. He wrote a classifier that was taking, or he had a little Raspberry Pi, again, they're everywhere, and he had a camera and water and seeds, and whenever a raven popped up out of all the other animals and birds, it would start recording a video because he just wanted to start doing that. And he showed step by step all of the Python tools and other OCR tools that he was using for that. I will also say I suck at data science, and yet I was still able to put this stuff together and clean it up. So it was fun for very restricted definitions of fun.
So back to you.
Yo.
Since you went to the PyCon, did you do another mind map?
Oh no. David's asking because last year I put together mind maps. Whenever I went to a talk, I just did a mind map and then whatever. No, I didn't this year. I should have. But yeah, I took lots of notes, but they are more of an outline form this time.
Cool. Maybe one more question? Anybody's got about the talk?
What's the safest place in Salt Lake City?
The safest, again, I can't tell you, but the question I was able to start answering was, did Operation Rio Grande have an effect on Pioneer Park? Wow. So I constrained things to that particular...
So you related it to the traffic, the construction patterns that were happening too?
I couldn't relate it, because I know there's construction going on. All I did was look at Pioneer Park, and did it get darker or lighter over time? And that's it. That's all I did. What do you guys think?
No.
It stayed the same.
Yeah.
So for now, and I only have up until the end of 2017's data, so I can't really answer, but all I can say is that, like, in terms of the heat map, it didn't really change color at that splotch of pixels. So.
And this is another great example of how data works. We have domain knowledge. Somebody has an expectation of like, no, it didn't change at all. We have data. We can kind of go, okay, did it or didn't it? And then if it did and it violates our expectation, why? If it doesn't and it confirms it, then we can be like, cool, like we know that our data is capturing phenomena that is in the real world.
And if you're looking for that data set, just take my name and put it in backwards on Twitter, and it's my pinned tweet right now, is that data set. So, and the visualization. So, thanks again, Dylan.
Yeah.
That was a great talk. All right, now it's time for the fun. We got our little raffle. So what number did we get to? Yeah. We'll get there. Who's missing a number right now? And where did the marker go?
Here's the marker.
Oh, here's the marker.
I took it to try to write things.
Let's see.
Most with that, right?
So here's a marker.
So how are you?
Those numbers were missed, apparently.
No, these were from last week.
Oh, okay.
As a cryptographer, I'm interested in how you pick your random numbers.
I use import random.
That's not cryptographically secure.
I have a one-time pad that I make sure.
No.
I have a software-defined radio that records the sounds of the universe and then takes that noise.
Are you debiasing it?
Yes.
Oh, how?
I use everybody's like random laughs, and I don't know. Text.
That's good. That's a good one.
I take a camera and I point it toward lava lamps, and then take.
Tell Cloudflare I said hi.
Yeah. We're nerding it up way too much. Who's missing this? Boom.
I don't have a number.
Skipped. You skipped your number. Skip.
I got it before I had a number on it.
Okay, who has the
Is your
highest
name
number?
literally Skip?
Ship.
Ship. Oh, okay. If it was Skip, it would have been very ironic. What is the highest number we're at? Who is at 30?
I got 33.
33, 30, 39.
There's some in the 40s.
And 40. Who's higher than 40? Guess what? You're 41. What's your name?
Adi.
Adi is at 41, and Ship, you're 42. You are the answer. And let's open up a terminal.
Did anyone try to
before?
42? See if it's a larger answer.
Loop. And I gotta go this way, right? Yeah, sweet.
I missed a lot over the last couple of months because
Doot,
of school.
doot, doot, doot. Come on.
Your terminal
Be
is literally
bigger.
a cockpit.
Yep. Do you know me, Tux?
I do know you.
Okay. Let's do. Okay, how many Pythonistas do we have?
42.
43. I'm 0.
Yeah.
Off by 1.
I should know the answer.
Okay. Boom. Import random. Random. I'm live coding, everybody.
It's the new history.
Wait, what? Speak up, I'm pair programming. I'm just kidding. Yeah, does this look good? This is my QA process. Do you guys like
Make
it?
0 constant.
0 should be not a magic number.
Code, some code.
It
Yeah.
should be capitalized.
0.
Okay, speaker gets to
Make it
hit
private.
enter. Wait, before we do, our lovely prizes are, we have 2 medium-sized t-shirts. Because we have 42 people, we're going to do 5 drawings, okay? So if you win, you get to select one of these 2 medium t-shirts. We have the illustrated guide to Python 3, and of course, let's do 3 possible Raspberry Pis. So, bloop. And those are what we got. So again, are you ready to hit enter? Yep. The winner is 18. Who is number 18?
I'm Dennis.
Tim! Yes. Tim, what do you want? Just let me know. I can throw it.
You're on t-shirt?
Yeah. Medium?
I'll wear it tomorrow.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yes, you can also hit enter. That is the second prize. You get 2 prizes. Go ahead. Loop 7. Hey, Farid. Yeah, come here so you can press the button too. We love buttons. Coding is just hitting buttons, right? In the right order. What would you like? A book? Okay.
You ever see Swordfish? That's like my life every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
21. Who's number 21? Avery.
I will take a Raspberry Pi.
Huzzah.
All right.
And then just hit return. 43. Do you see what happened here?
Yeah, research did.
QA.
Off by one.
It's inclusion.
Yeah?
It's inclusive.
Yep. So I'll hit enter again for you. 24. Yeah, Jacob! We get one more after this guy.
Don't you always win?
What's that?
Have you won before?
I've never won. No.
Every clear idea that you always.
I'll have a Raspberry Pi.
Congratulations. And for our last,
Are you ready?
yeah, for our last winner, 20. Woo! Hey! Pass? He passes, because remember I told you guys when you got here that my dad thinks that this logo's ugly? So, I know, right? That's how I know it's awesome.
It passed the dad check. Dad doesn't think it's cool.
I can't talk. Sometimes I wear cargo shorts, so.
Hey,
I'll hit
what's
enter.
wrong with
I just realized I offended like 20% of the people.
Never going back.
Who's hitting the lights? Tim, come on, Tim. 17. Who's 17? Dylan, you want? Oh,
I'm just gonna.
and he passes.
27.
27.
I'm so close.
Oh no, are you 27?
No, I'm 27.
He's gifting it.
Oh, gifting! You get to pick something else.
with 2 Raspberry Pis.
Do you want a shirt?
Book.
The book? Good job. Good choice.
Are these signed books?
Thank you for passing that, Todd. Awesome. Our next meetup will be not on July 4th. It will be the Wednesday after.
In poor date time.
Yes, right. Our next meetup will be on the 11th. It is going to be about solving the Titanic problem using data science. It's another data science talk. It will be a lot more technical than this one. This one was excellent, but it was definitely more organizational. This one is going to be more hardcore on the tech, and we're going to survive the Titanic, okay, using Python, right? The talk after that is still open. I think I'm going to try to push for a web talk. So if somebody wants to do a Python web talk or infrastructure talk like that, let me know. Chase, I'm giving finger guns. This means you have to. Okay, let's talk after. But everybody have a safe ride home. You don't have to go home right away. I'm just going to be cleaning up. Thanks again for coming. Have a lovely, lovely Wednesday.
Thank you. Awesome.
Paris.
Yes.
The
yes.
data set you're doing, there's a guy